Hey everybody, it's Jurius Doctor, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at basic flight dynamics in Star Citizen. This is going to include an overview and orientation on basic movement, ship navigation, ship menus, and basic ship orientation in space, ship combat, engaging your weapons, and also how to use coupled and decoupled flight, as well as staggered fire, and changing the flight performance of your ship and flight features when you're in your ship. We'll also cover reloading, repairing, and refueling your vessel. This may be a little bit of a longer video. My last two videos have hovered around 20 minutes. This one's likely to go a little bit longer, so I may split it into two videos. That happens, I will post them at the same time so that you're not having to wait to get through the content. You'll typically see two-part videos like that posted at the same time, and that way you'll be able to watch them one after the other. If there are any questions after watching this video, because we're going to be covering a lot of content in this video, please put them in the comment section below. I do make an effort to respond to everybody who posts a comment or question, at least anybody who's not trolling, and I will definitely pay attention to those comments so that I can help you out. If you are looking to join a good organization in Star Citizen, there are a lot of them out there. I will talk about that in an upcoming video and talk to you about the benefits of having friends who play the game and people that you can call upon. There is also a professional guide program within the game where you can seek the assistance of experienced players to show you the ropes and help you get around. Let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into our ship. In order to do that, you walk up to the left side of your vessel, typically for most small vessels, and you'll see that when you look at the ship, you can highlight a door panel and it will give you the opportunity to enter your vessel. Entering your vessel is very easy. Exiting your vessel is also very easy. Typically, you'll hold down the F key, which we talked about in a previous video, and you're going to look around until you see exit come up in your options. So here, it's this little toggle on the side of my vessel. So we're going to go through and we're going to say exit ship. Now, the other way to exit a ship that's easier than that and saves you from having to look around your canopy to find what you're looking for in the fuselage, you can also just press and hold the Y key. That's your shortcut key for exiting your ship. It's also the same shortcut key that you'll use to exit a seat in your ship if you have an interior living space to exit into. So if you're able to exit out of the ship versus exiting into the interior of the ship, it's the same hotkey. It's just press and hold Y. Now, why this is important, no pun intended, is that not every ship is entered in the same way. Some ships have a front fuselage that opens and a chair that automatically comes down on an elevator. Some ships you enter through the rear ramp, or you come in through a side port, or you climb a ladder and go through a door. There's different animations for entering different ships. In this case, I'm flying a medium fighter. You can see that it has a couple of laser repeaters under the wings here. Good sized ship here, and has additional missiles that are stored within these pods on the side with the fins here. But the function and basic orientation features of your ship will be the same. Engines at the back, thrusters located around the ship. When the ship is powered on, it will have indicator lights just like this, and just like a nautical vessel or a boat, red lights on the port, green lights on the starboard, or blue lights, and basically that's their way of indicating to oncoming vessels which way you are oriented. Now, when you re-enter your ship, here you can choose to just open the canopy or just open the ladder. I'm actually going to enter the ship, which is going to take me through the whole entry process. Character climbs up the ladder. Actually see him getting in if I go to external camera view. Canopy is going to close. And if my ship is already on, all the holographics and multifunction displays will already be up. Now, if you've entered your ship for the first time and the engines and systems are off, you're still going to get the HUD view that you see here. So your basic holographics are going to come up. And this is what we need to talk about first to help you understand and orient for piloting a spacecraft. First thing that you have on the left-hand side here, and I'm going to press and hold F, This is your inner focus or your focus key that allows you to look around. So currently my character's head is moving when I look, and I'm going to zoom in here with my scroll key. So this here is your velocity meter, basically a tachometer. This is going to tell you how fast you are going to go under thrust. This little box indicates your current thrust limiter. So this is your speed cap. Think of it that way. It's your thrust cap. So you're going to stop accelerating when your thrust reaches where this box is, this line. Right now, that line sits about 180 meters a second for this ship. And this is a rating in meters per second. So it is metric. Sorry, no freedom units. But you do have the ability to adjust where this box sits. If you move it up into the red, your ship will go fast, but that red area indicates that you are exceeding your ship's normal tolerances, and you will begin to see your navigation and your handling degrade because of the fact that you're exceeding the safe movement speed. We call this in this game SCM speed, which is Ship Combat Maneuvers Speed. Essentially, if you go faster than your SCM speed, it's like putting a really big engine in a really small car. Cornering goes out the window. If you move slower than your SCM speed, if you stay in sort of the lighter color bottom half of this bar, your handling improves the slower you go. So when you're trying to take off and land, it's actually a good thing to reduce your speed to increase your handling and control. Once you're away from collidable objects and you're unlikely to go sailing into the walls at 100 meters a second, you're safe to raise that speed back up and accelerate. And the better you get at this game, the more control you'll have. On the right-hand side here, you have your altimeter. This is your altitude in meters. Currently, this is showing your distance away from the planet's surface. Now we're in orbit above the planet, so we are at a height of 126 kilometers, or 126,110 meters. So 100,000 meters or 126,000 meters, it's 126 kilometers. Space 10, divide by 10. Now, you also have your G-safe meter, which is your basic orientation of your ship and how many G's you're currently pulling when you turn. Off to the right, let's start with the controls over here. This is indicating the power status of your ship and of your weapons. This is my 2 Panther laser repeaters. They are both currently powered off. I have a note saying my shields are down and my power is off because, of course, the main power plant for the ship is off and the engines are off. Over here on the right-hand side, we have lock indicating our maximum of 3 weapons locks, how many of them are active. If we have more than 1 weapon lock going, these will light up. We have our decoys. This is your flares, essentially, that will draw heat-seeking weapons away from you. So if somebody fires a missile at you, you'll fire flares. This number will deplete. If you press and hold the button used to launch flares, it will begin queuing up how many flares you want to launch. So if you hold down and this starts going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starts counting up, when you let go, that many flares will fire. You don't just have to fire them one at a time. Same goes for noise. Noise is fired using another key, and this is used for other missiles such as EM and cross-section missiles to try and confuse them and draw them away from the ship. The last option here is Stagger, or STGR. This represents the ability to take your weapons and have them fire alternately if they are not repeating weapons. So if you have ballistic or laser repeaters, this doesn't really impact you. But if you have laser cannons or ballistic cannons or scatter guns, and they will fire slower, choosing the stagger option will make it so that if you have a gun on the left of your ship and a gun on the right of your ship, they'll fire alternating. So you'll get a left, then right, left, then right, left, then right. What's the advantage of that? Well, it's increasing how often your shots get to the target. It's dividing your damage you're going to deal by 2 and increasing the interval by 2. So it's doubling the interval but having the damage. So when your shots individually land, they'll do less damage, half the damage that they would do if both shots land at the same time, what we call alpha. Alpha damage is how much damage can you do when you fire all of your weapons at the same time and they all land at the same time. And it is important to note that in Star Citizen, there are different firing modes when you're using guns or if you're firing missiles. You cannot fire both missiles and guns at the same time. Computer simply won't give you the firing solution. You need to switch back and forth between them. How you do that is your your third mouse button. So typically it's your scroll wheel click. Now, on the left side of your instrumentation here, you have your landing gear indicator called gear. You have ESP, which is enhanced stick precision. Basically, this is a setting for people who are using joysticks. I'll talk about joysticks and other controls like gamepads in another video. CPLD represents coupled flight. We're going to cover coupled flight mode in the second half of this video, or in part 2 if I decide to split this out as 2 videos. And then you have VTOL. VTOL represents your vertical takeoff and landing. Larger ships and very fat ships have so much mass that in order to get off the ground, they have a different flight mode where additional ports and thrusters will open up to provide the extra downlift or down force to push the ship up off the ground. And in the case of several very large ships, if you're trying to take off and leave the atmosphere and you turn VTOL off, your ship will be heavy enough that at low altitudes it will simply pancake onto the planet's surface. It'll fall right out of the sky. So for some ships, VTOL is very, very important. For some smaller ships, it simply changes the characteristics of the outside of your ship, like folding in extra wings or folding up the canards, which are the wings at the front of the ship. Or you may find that the direction of thrusters on the ships change. Certain ships that take advantage of that are like the Xperia Talon, which is a type of fighter. It has wings that look very much like a bird's wings with feathers. You can fold the wings in like a diving falcon by using the VTOL key. Now, when it comes to powering your ships on, when you power your ship on and bring on the power plant, usually the engines will come up with it. If they haven't, there's a separate key to activate the engines. To turn the whole ship on at once, just press R or ship ready. If you want to do it by looking around your cabin, you can look down and around until you find the key that controls your power. In this case, it's on my left. So if I say power on, it'll power the ship on. If I choose flight ready, it'll power the ship on and power up the engines. Additional flight controls I have are the ability to exit or control the exterior of my ship. I have the ability to access, here should be landing gear. Oh, down here's the eject handle. But yeah, you'll have flight ready, you'll have controls for accessing the exterior ship, and usually you'll have the option to extend or lower your landing gear. This ship isn't as physicalized as some of the others. On most of my other ships, when I look around the cockpit, I have the ability to choose what I'm doing physically. This ship, you have to use a lot more of the hotkeys. Your keys for controlling the interior ship and the exterior ship are thus, so pay attention for me. U turns on your ship systems. I turns on the engines. O turns on and off the power for the shields, and P turns on and off the power for weapons. So U, I, O, and P, those 4 keys in the third row of your keyboard, right hand side, control in this order: systems, engines, shields, and weapons. Accidentally pressing the O key when you're in combat is bad because it turns off your shields and you become a sitting duck, at least if you get hit. Turning off your engines in flight also does the same, because again, you stop moving. And if you're in a gravity well, you start falling. Let's turn the ship on by pressing R. Now, when the ship comes on, and the engines fire up, the first thing you're going to notice is that your ship starts saying, hey, your shields are off, your shields are down, and that light will eventually go away. You'll start seeing, if you have an MFD up that covers it, or multifunction display, you'll start seeing your shields charge. Now, in the Hornet, I have just a plethora of different displays to choose from. So up here by default, I have my current ship status. I have my target status. Down on the right here, I have my current shield charge. So I can see here 100% charged for the front, for the right, the rear, left, front, back, right, and left. My shields are fully charged on each side. Below that, I have my weapon selection and weapon power. I can choose the grouping of my guns and which key they fire on. So right now, if I use my left mouse button, both of these weapons fire together. If I want to change that, scroll in on this window, I choose guns, and I change the other gun to group 1. Now I have my left mouse button, my right mouse button will fire these guns independently. On joysticks or gamepads, you may want to keep these grouped or not, depending upon the controls that are available to you. Joystick. If you have been locked by somebody, or there's an active weapons lock, you'll hear the sound you just heard. That wasn't me that was getting locked, but you'll have different indicators will come up here. So if you're overpowering your engines, if your power is low, if your weapons are overheating, thrusters are overheating, if your shields are down, all of these different things, including radar lock and missile warnings, will let you know if there's something you have to pay attention to. And they're all accompanied by sounds. The left MFDs here show me my current power distribution. If you shift the power towards guns, in this case represented by the bullets, or towards shields, or towards thrust and core systems, so you'll notice that's a little thruster icon, this will change the handling and dynamics of your ship. If you increase power to the weapons, it will take power away from your thrusters and your shields. So you're getting, some extra power to your guns, which will increase your output of damage, but it may also leave you more vulnerable to destruction. This same power management menu is also where you can click on items, and you can choose to power on or off individual systems and see their current health. Additionally, you'll have a heat menu, and your heat menu may need to be accessed as well as your power menu. If you have a limited number of MFDs in the ship that you're in, you may have to change between menus by clicking the menu button and then choosing which menu you want to leave displayed on that MFD as an economization of your efforts. In this case, we had heat on there, but I can also access my comms menu just as I would by pressing F11 in my mobiGlass. I can see power, weapons, shields, and self-status, as well as heat. I'm going to go back to heat because this is a good thing for me to see, is how much EM am I putting out, how much infrared, and what's the overall heat of my systems. Now, there are stealth controls here that can be turned on. At present, they don't really do anything because stealth it was in the game and worked poorly, and they've since disabled it. But you can press stealth, and what this will attempt to do is to suppress the overall IR heat output of your ship by turning on stealth systems. If you come down to the heat system and you click suppress overall IR, that's really going to focus on reducing your infrared signature, reducing heat, by increasing the speed of your coolers and the amount of power dedicated to those systems. But do note, your EM rating is a static rating. If you have ballistics weapons, meaning they actually throw bullets, your EM rating will be lower than if you're using energy weapons. The trade-off for energy weapons is that you never run out of ammunition. You just have to allow your weapons time to recharge from the ship's capacitor. Now, how do we basically move around in space? The controls are fairly straightforward. We're going to cover that and flight in the next video. I am going to split this up into two parts. But in order to get out into space and to start that video, you need to know how to call the tower. And as I discussed in the first video covering basic movement and orientation, you can call the tower by using your mobiGlass, going to the friends list, choosing friends, and then choosing the local tower in order to call them. The other way that you can do it is by using one of your ship MFDs, scrolling in, choosing menu, going to communication, and just choosing that particular tower from here. The other way that you can do it, and go back to heat, is that there's a key binding that's available to you. So you hit escape, go to options, go to key bindings, and here you'll see the map of all the default key bindings that exist depending on what flight mode that you're in, as well as the number pad and mouse bindings for different keys in different flight modes, and whether you're in a ground vehicle, a space vehicle, whether you're on foot, or just walking around a space station or spaceport, your different commands will change, but you can access your advanced controls customization from here. This is where we'll change keybinds, and you can see that there's really only a few keys like caps lock, F3, minus and equals, semicolon, and apostrophe, backslash that aren't used by anything by default. First thing we're going to do is change that. We're going to go to advanced controls customization. We're going to find flight movement. You're going to scroll down to the bottom of this list. The very last item on this list is request landing. We're going to double click on that and press F3. This is going to bind the ability to ask the tower to open the doors for you, or to ask for a landing pad, to this key. This will save you a ton of effort. The other thing you're going to bind is you're going to go down to vehicles weapons, and you're going to find in here cycle fire mode, staggered or combined, and you're going to want to change that to backslash. Now you don't have to use exactly these keys, but they're two of the keys that are easiest to reach and are currently available and not mapped to anything else. Backslash is right above your enter key on the right side of your keyboard by a default US keyboard. If you're using an international keyboard, your backslash key may be bound to something else, but you can always rebind it to whatever you want it to be. But choosing this to be bound to backslash if you're a US or Canadian English speaking user, your keyboard will typically have your backslash right above your enter key, and it's fairly close to your right hand. So if you need to toggle back and forth between firing together all your weapons or firing in a staggered mode, this is where you'll access that. One last little thing we're going to cover before we get into the flight dynamics video is under game settings. I want you to scroll down about 2/3 of the way down this list, and you're going to find an option that says vehicles targeting pip reticle. I'm going to have a whole video just covering the pip reticle. What this means is that when you're shooting at somebody from your spaceship, are you shooting in front of them so that your bullets or shots run into them when they get where you're aiming? Or are you pointing your guns or the nose of your ship in front of where they are and shooting your weapons where they are now? Basically, are you leading ahead of them with your shots, or are you lagging behind the direction of your ship? Basically, it's the Indian versus the arrow. It's a bad analogy, but basically, are you aiming with the weapon that you're firing, or are you aiming with the ammunition that you're firing? And it's a really important distinction to understand, and it has an impact on your playstyle. So we're going to cover this in its own video. But by default, I personally prefer lag, and again, I'll talk about that later. You can change this at your will from here. All right, everybody, that makes up the end of this video. In our next video, we're going to cover leaving the station and basic navigation and movement in your ship. Thanks everyone for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, I encourage you to do so. If you want to see when those extra videos come out, go ahead and click the bell icon to change your notification options. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the questions section below in the comments, and I do make an effort to respond to every comment and question. If you have ideas for a video you'd like to see me cover, go ahead and throw those down there as well. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.